Welcome back to Press Review Middle East in Depth. As Syria-related arrests soar in the UK and the Met Police launched its campaign to reach families to help curb British citizens from travelling to Syria, let's see what the papers say. Heather Saul looks at the issue in The Independent. In her article, UK police urge Muslim women to report relatives planning to join war. Saul says Muslim women in the UK are being urged to report family members they believe are planning to join the war in Syria by counter-terrorism officers hoping to reduce the number of men leaving Britain to fight. Saul says workers from the Prevent Counter-Terrorism Scheme, the Charity Commission and other groups will meet at Scotland Yard today for the launch of a campaign to encourage others to prevent their loved ones from travelling to Syria. Other events are also being held across the country, and leaflets highlighting the risk of going to the Middle East state will be handed out at ports. She adds that Deputy Assistant Commissioner Helen Ball, National Coordinator for Counter-Terrorism at the Metropolitan Police, stressed the initiative was not about criminalizing people. She quotes Ball saying it's about preventing tragedies. We want to inform those who wish to genuinely help the Syrian cause how they can do so safely and legally. However, Saul points out that critics of the initiative have argued the campaign must be community-led because of the lack of trust in the police. Saul says Home Affairs Select Committee Chairman Kees Vaz said it was unlikely that parents would report suspicions about their children to the police, who are not the Samaritans. They are the first step in the criminal enforcement process. Vaz says this needs to be addressed at a peer group level, include partnerships with social media and have the full engagement of the communities affected. They hold the key. Young people need to be persuaded that if they go to Syria, they may end up dead. Sandra Laville writes a piece for The Guardian titled "Portsmouth Muslims Work with the Police to Deter Youth from the Lure of Syria." Laville says one city facing up to the lure exerted by the conflict in Syria on its young people is Portsmouth. At least 8 men and 2 teenage girls have traveled from the naval port to Turkey and on into Syria in the last 6 months. Laville adds that police and the security service are keen to point out that Portsmouth is not a hotspot, but an example of a nationwide phenomenon. Arrests across England and Wales on suspicion of terror offensive related to Syria have spiked this year, with around 40 individuals detained in the first 4 months, compared to 25 arrests in the whole of 2013. According to Laville, police forces have had some success appealing to parents who have suspicions about their children's activities, but adds that the experience in Portsmouth, according to community leaders, is that in some cases, mothers and fathers are the last people to find out what their children are up to. She quotes the president of the city's main mosque, Abdul Jalil, saying, "It's impossible for us to get a message to every one of the 1,000 people who come and pray here, but we try our best to get a message out to young people who might be trying to go to Syria to help the people, to say to them, don't risk your life, you can help in a different way." Laville adds that mosque leaders say they have no problem if those who have gone to Syria are arrested on their return. We're now joined by political analyst Nidal Naisef from Syria. Nidal, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody.
Nidal, as we see from latest reports, the Met Police is reaching out to Muslim women to help them stop their relatives from traveling to Syria. But do you think women would actually report to the police about suspicions on their own relatives?
Well, in fact, this seems to be quite strange in this time. But I think that the British authorities won't like to clash with the people, the Muslim community in Britain through other movements. I think they are going to approach the questions socially. And we know in the Islamic education what is the importance of these relationships, maternity and sister and girls and daughters in regard to their brothers, fathers, and so on. I do think the British understand this education, and they are going to approach this important, I think, sectarian, a little bit sectarian question through this instrument. I think now, through what one can say that everybody now in Britain is, in the West in general, are feeling a new 9/11, and these measurements through threatening people and telling them and warning them about the dangers of of terror on their own lives, on the lives of the women, on the lives of children, on the lives of everybody in Britain, so that they wanted to approach, as I said, this question through family relations instead of having police measurements against this that will entitle, I think, a violent reaction from this community, and we know that it's a big and quite influential community in Britain.
Yes, Nidal, why do you believe it is Muslims specifically being asked and not the British people in general?
Well, dear Diana, as you know, and I'm very sad to say that and tell that most of the fighters involved in the fighting and war in Syria are very sad and most sorrowfully from the Muslim community, and the Muslims, those who are involving in the war in Syria are exploiting this Muslim education to recruit those people in the fighting in Syria and exploiting their emotions and the religious background of the people to let them go to Syria and fight the Syrian state. Otherwise, people may not be convinced to go and fight against Syria. They are, as you know, it is a kind of a sacred war against the Syrian state. They are accusing it of being an atheist and non-believer state, so that it is easy for them to recruit those Muslim community who are in fact have this educational and ideological background to fight the infidels, to find the atheists everywhere. It's a kind of religious duty for them.
Yeah, Nidal, do you think this is the beginning of a future pressure on the British Muslim communities from the British government, especially with the latest crackdown on the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, in fact, as I told you, dear Diana, that now there is great fear in the West in general regarding those who came back from Syria. As I told you before, everyone now is fearing a new 9/11. The same old story in Afghanistan may be retold and very, very sad and sorry to say that, may be retold or narrated or done or perpetrated in the West, in Britain, in Spain, in Paris, in New York and Washington, as it happened when the same fighters came back from Afghanistan and they turned to their own countries to perpetrate these terrorist actions against their own governments. We all remember the bloody, I was there in London at that time, yes. In 2007, I think, when the terrorist attacks occurred or happened in Britain, from the same people, the same jihadists who are fighting now in Syria. They are their comrades, they are their colleagues and friends. Some of them now came once again to Syria to fight the Syrian government as the Syrian people and kill the Syrian people. Those mercenaries are an international army which is going to fight everywhere. When they came back from anywhere, they are going to do the same actions. They have been trained to specific kinds of terrorist actions that they will do and execute in their own countries. I am very, very, very sad, and I'm very frightened to tell you, dear Diana, that a new 9/11 will be somewhere in the West in the near future, as I see it. I want to be mistaken here, but this is my own view and fight for the future in most and we know, we have read now in today's newspaper in Britain that there are more than 500 fighters who were involved in the fightings in Syria.
Yes.
Many of them have turned back to Britain. What are they going to do now in Britain? They are interlinked to these terrorist organizations in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, and we know now we are all following the crackdown and the following.
Well, Nidal, maybe this might justify. This might justify the call of the police. But do you think this call for Muslim women is ironic, as the British government was in fact funding the rebels? Do you think this could be a move to cover up their funding, or maybe because the Syrian government now is winning on the ground, and there are talks of President Bashar al-Assad winning the elections, that maybe the British government now is showing that an intention of reconciliation tactique for the future?
Well, as I told you, now there is everybody is trying to withdraw from Syria with honor. The British government which backed those terrorists now finds itself embarrassed for what it had done before, and helping and facilitating the exodus of these terrorists to Syria, and they feel that Britain itself will be a target of terrorist activities by those fighters whom it helped someday. So that they are now trying, in fact, to say that we have nothing to do with what happened in Syria. We have nothing to do with. We have not helped those terrorists.
Yes.
We are innocent from anything that might happen in the future. I think it is a kind of preemptive measure for what they are thinking or expecting to happen in the near future in Britain, as I told you, while everybody is now expecting and waiting for a new 9/11 somewhere in the West. I think this is the question.
Yes. A political analyst from Syria, Nidal Naisi, thank you for joining us. For more updates,
thank you very much. Thank you, dear.
Thank you. For more updates, please visit our website, levant.tv. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.